Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Exploring Quantum Terrain Healing, how you're wired to heal at all levels using the power of epigenetics and quantum energy. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm always delighted to get to explore new and important terrain. And so I'm going to be learning right alongside with you today from a remarkable pioneer in this field. Her name is Dr. Christine Schaffner. She's a naturopathic physician and is really weaving some important threads together of understanding from a more natural health perspective and how that relates with the larger fields of energy and consciousness that we're a part of. So we're going to dive deep today with her, and we're also going to have a chance to go further in a brand new program all about quantum terrain healing that we'll share more about towards the end of the hour. So with that said, Dr. Christine, welcome to today's program.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephen. I'm really honored to be here.
Great. Well, I always like to start, I know the eagerness to jump into the content, but first a little bit about your personal backstory and what really propelled you to be interested in this area and really devote a lot of attention to illuminating quantum terrain healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my story is both a personal journey and also my quest really to share the latest information and how I can support my patients on a path I always say, the most elegant path to healing. I see patients for over 14 years that really struggle with these chronic, complex illnesses that really are, in my opinion, an epidemic of society. And they're multi-systemic and they're multivariable, basically pathologies. And we need to look a little bit beyond just the physical body and really also look in how physics is kind of an overarching kind of a operating system for our biochemistry. And so that, quest of really not only supporting my patients and bringing in things like light and sound and energy and vibration with my other bioregulatory and naturopathic modalities really has moved the needle and continues my quest for really supporting them. And I had a personal journey. You teach this, and I always say you teach what you want to learn. And in 2020, I think everybody, we had a collective trauma, and also we had our own personal transformation story. Many of us, especially that I observe in my patients and my community and my family. And I was not, immune to that. And I, went through a very stressful time. I had to start over my new business. I had a 2-year-old. And then in that time, I was diagnosed with a benign brain tumor. And so I had a pituitary tumor. And I was going through some stress, and I had just some symptoms that really, I just chalked up to stress, like, oh, I have to get through the stress and then I'll take care of my body. But my husband and I have desired to have another child. We have a beautiful daughter, and we've always wanted to have a second. And he said, Christine, why don't you just maybe get checked out? There's something that's probably not clicking in your endocrine system right now. And so I dragged my feet, we're the worst patients as doctors. And I finally got a workup, and I did what I would have told my patient to do. And I got an MRI. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I have something little that's affecting my pituitary. But very quickly, I found out that I had a very large tumor in the middle of my sella turcica, which is where our pituitary basically hangs down from our brain in this thin stalk that's in the middle of our brain. And it was the size of an egg. So it was flattening my pituitary, and also our optic chiasm kind of traverses through our brain, kind of right over that place, kind of the center of how our eyes communicate to the occipital part of our brain that helps with our vision. And I hadn't realized, but I noticed my night vision was a little different, and I just thought my prescription was changing. And, I was actually, my vision was affected. And so I was quickly, shuttled from my doctor to a neurosurgeon who called me before his surgeries that day. And as a doctor, I know if somebody's making time for me before, they get into the day, I was like, okay, my shock was, like wearing off a bit. And I was like, okay, this is really serious. And here I am, very humbled. I teach all about the lymphatic system and brain health on top of, my quest to explore quantum physics with my patients. And so I was immediately surprised because neurosurgeons really get a kind of a bad rap. They are very brilliant, but never have the best bedside manner. But this was a beautiful man, a very heart-centered man that really, was just creating the space I needed to understand what was going on. And he had very clearly showed me my MRI. He said the good thing is that this is completely treatable. The unfortunate thing is we're going to have to do surgery. And he does 400 surgeries of these a year. And thank goodness they can go through your nose to get the tumor. The brilliant people, thank God, have studied this. And just kind of taking a step back through this stress that I was going through, I really, sought, a refuge and a sanctuary with meditation and studying quantum physics. And I have gone to many of Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreats. And I was really, struck by something Dr. Dispenza says, that when you change matter with matter, it takes time. And I'm good at that. Like learned that 14 years. I know how to change people's biology and chemistry with matter to matter treatments. But it takes long, so it's kind of frustrating. Somebody's sick for a decade and then it's years for them to get better. But he said, when you change the field, you can change matter. So, learning through his work and also my study with other mentors and reading research papers and having my own experience, I really had, the kind of my final exam in many ways to prepare for the surgery. It was I had very soon after I consented, it was 2 weeks to prepare to go through the surgery because I was at risk for stroke. I was at risk for losing my vision. It was quite severe. And I turned to the realm of energy medicine. I studied and experienced the work of really profound energy healers. My dear friends circled around me. We are familiar with the work of intention circles and coherent circles and group prayer and the power of getting a group of people together intending for a person to achieve a healing. I also, meditated a lot. There was a moment where, you feel all the fear, you have that dark kind of moment in your soul and your spirit, and you're like, why am I going through this? And then you quickly acknowledge that, and you're like, okay, I have a choice. I have a choice in how I go through this. And my choice was to trust this work that I had so diligently observed in my community and studied, and really, apply it to my own life and my own body. And so, fast forward, I go through surgery after going through all of this. I go through surgery really well. I recover. And there was a moment in my follow up with Dr. Ferrara, my neurosurgeon, a month later. I donated part of my tumor I went to University of Washington, and I donated part of it to research because, I was always for that. And I just kind of passing out. The appointment was ending. I was ready to kind of walk out. I just quickly said, "Oh, what was the pathology report? Can you just explain that?" And he had in a moment, he said, Christine, I'm going to be studying your tumor for a long time. It has some unique cell types. It's very, different. And most of all, I want to understand why such a big, large tumor came out so easily compared to other tumors that I operate on. And in that moment, it was my validation and my observation and my perspective that the work that I chose to do on the levels that we'll continue to dive in and explore today had a profound impact on my healing. I believe that Dr. Ferraro would have done a great job, but there could have been complications, or there could have been, maybe not the best result that we wanted. But the work that I did with healers, my friends, myself, really getting aligned in my spirit and really trusting and knowing that I would get through this really facilitated the outcome. So that turned my passion to a mission. It's, if I can experience this, I'm, no different than anyone else. And so I've been really, really inspired of how we can really I really believe in my lifetime, I want to be part of this kind of change in the paradigm of how we practice medicine. And it's beyond just like alternative or complementary or integrative or naturopathic, but it's really weaving in and starting with this understanding of quantum physics, not like as an afterthought, like, oh, we've tried everything, now go to the woo stuff, but like really like, okay, let's really share the landscape of how we're wired to heal and how we can connect with this greater field of energy, whatever we want to call that, and really participate and observe the highest outcome for our lives.
Hmm.
That's a little, personal story, but I think it really shares, why I really wanted to share this knowledge with Shift and, create this course and, really dedicate my career to this, curiosity.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for all the
Yeah.
investigation and research that's
Yeah.
been built from that. So let's talk about quantum terrain healing. So
Yeah.
starting from physics and going upward into our health. So what are the foundational understandings of physics that we want to make sure we understand as we're building this more sophisticated integrative model of how to heal?
Yeah, and I'll just share kind of how I, use this word terrain. So I mentioned, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and then I've been trained in what we call bioregulatory medicine. And bioregulatory medicine came out of like Switzerland, Germany, Austria, and it's a very very comprehensive system. But it always, came from the premise really similar to naturopathic medicine. The body is wise, it's intelligent, and it has a self-regulating capacity. We just need to, as doctors, as practitioners, facilitate the removal of those obstacles to allow this divine energy to flow and heal through our system. And, terrain medicine is different than germ theory in that it's a more empowering way to look at life. Like, we don't have to be a victim of our environment, but we can be empowered to create adaptation, resilience, and regulation within our system and in our body. And why I share this understanding and kind of, in my perspective, upgrade this definition is that we really want to include not just the biochemistry and looking at the autonomic nervous system and its impact in healing, but we want to look at the physics of healing, the physics of how we're wired to heal. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I want to just really, give, a lot of credit to pioneers that came before us, like Tesla and Einstein and Planck and, many thought leaders that really, even in their knowing about almost 100 years ago, said the energy of the future is going to be the one that looks at energy, frequency, and vibration for healing. And there's a lot of probably, reasons why we haven't leaned into this understanding, but I think we're in a tipping point in our collective consciousness to really embrace these concepts. And so we'll, kind of unpack in, this conversation and in this course, we'll dive deeper. We are wired to communicate with electromagnetism. We're wired to communicate and generate and emanate biophotonic energy, which is this light energy. We're also wired to communicate and heal through sound. Our cells create music. There is a sound to healing. There's also a vibration of sound that is very, very healing for the body that we'll talk more about. And I like to, in my mind, I like to really kind of understand, okay, like these are really awesome principles, but how do they work, right? And this idea of the quantum terrain includes our physical body. And in bioregulatory medicine, I mentioned that we talk a lot about the autonomic nervous system. So that is kind of, you might have heard of the vagus nerve or kind of, this parasympathetic state that is rest and digest. That's a healing state. And then we're often in sympathetic, which is fight, flight, or freeze. And that's really helpful. I turn also to looking at what we call the extracellular matrix, which is the space between the cells. And we are really looking at the fluid that bathes the cells and how that is really important in the environment of the cell is more important than the cell, because if you don't have a healthy environment, the cell is not going to have optimal expression. And so we work a lot on lymphatics and drainage. So I have been inspired by two other people, Dr. James Oshman and Dr. Jean-Claude Gumberto. So Dr. James Oshman, he wrote a book called Energy Medicine. It's like the Bible of energy medicine. If you want to look more at the physics and really educate yourself, I highly recommend you buy that book or get it on your Kindle. Whenever I do presentations, I go back and make sure I'm, having an accurate description of what I'm intuiting or downloading or experiencing and observing. And so he talks about what we call the living matrix. And so he has this idea that we are interconnected. Our outer environment of our cells is interconnected to the inner environment of our cells through this fascial fabric. So the fascia has gotten a lot of, I think it's a kind of hot topic now, which I'm so glad its time has come. And the fascia basically is this highway in our body that there's a through line of connection between the outer environment of our cell that crosses over and hooks into the cell membrane and hooks into the cytoskeleton and the microtubulin that touches the DNA. And this fascial network is, from our skin all the way through the nucleus of the cell. There might be different shapes or densities, but there is this highway of communication. And James Oshman really talks about this is why energy medicine works. This fabric, is a vibrational fabric. It is a highway of informational exchange. And Jean-Claude Gumberto had very similar observations through observing hand surgeries. So he you can find his information on YouTube. I've read his book cover to cover, The Architecture of Human Living Fascia. And it's this idea that, again, he has that same definition from the skin to the nucleus of the cell. There is a through line of connection through this beautiful fascial fabric. And it's very different what he shows us in a living system than a dead system that we see in, a cadaver lab. We kind of cut through the fascia and think it's just structural, but he talks about it as it delivers this plasma form of water to our tissues. And it is basically a highway of where the quanta of our communication really gets delivered throughout the body. There are no cell-free spaces, or there are no basically empty spaces in the body, but there are many cell-free spaces. But this fascial fabric weaves this architecture within our body. And there are many, great people also like Mae-Wan Ho, who talks about this fascia is this crystalline like internet, this fiber optic system that delivers information. And, my hypothesis through my observation of patients and the research and papers I've read, that the fascia actually communicates faster than our autonomic nervous system. And this is really the fabric of healing. It's also the fabric of where we get sick. So toxicants, pathogens, trauma gets stored in this tissue, and the different, basically labels of this tissue. So when I think of quantum physics, I also extend this idea of the living matrix or the tissue continuum or the fascial fabric and say, hey, we don't stop at the skin. We are surrounded by a biofield of electromagnetic, toroidal energy and light energy and sound. And we have our own little sphere of our own, personal story and our own kind of memory that gets stored. We basically come into earth in our human body with this information that we are part of the greater whole, but we also emanate and generate information. It's kind of a two-way system. And this biofield, this beautiful biofield that Beverly Rubik and Eileen McCusick have written really wonderful papers about and books. We're not alone. We're not sitting in these isolated toroidal fields. We are in a greater space. We are in a sea, of information and potential. This is called, the quantum field, the unified field, the 0 point field, the ether, the luminiferous ether. That's what Tesla called it. It is the space of where all waves basically are generated and flowing through. And Some people liken this to source or the divine or whatever you believe in, because of its ability to really receive and generate information. And as my quest is of healing and to try to understand why I had such a personal story and the stories that I continue to observe in my community, is that we can receive information when we get in an alignment and we get in a coherent state, and when we practice these meditations, and these exercises, we get in alignment with our higher selves, this higher space of potential, and we can receive healing, we can receive information, we can receive a thought, a dream, an inspiration, a knowing. There is this communication that's happening. And I believe the more we understand how this works, and again, I feel like I'm a student still and a novice, but I do have an experience that I am very compelled to share. That when we have this knowing and this narrative, that we can observe, more and participate more in this perspective of reality. And I think that this is a time where we're really going to accelerate this knowing and understanding, and there's going to be so much more to be revealed. So it's really exciting.
Well, there was a ton that you just downloaded in that
Yeah.
segment. So I want to sort of repeat a few things and see if
Yeah.
that's accurate. So there's the larger energy field, the biofield, that's sort of our, in a way, our communication system with the kind of wider universe. And then that is interfacing with the fascial system, which
Yeah.
then connects in with the microtubules all the way into the cellular level. So it's sort of like that. So you can kind of get the bidirectional flow from
Yeah.
from cells all the way out to the cosmos through that kind of linked system is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. And I call the quantum terrain, like this interconnection from really, when I think about the innermost part of our cell, I think of our DNA. So this connection of our DNA to the quantum field, we have a highway of communication that the more we tune into, I think there's more health, there's more healing, there's more connection, there's more purpose, there's more inspiration, there's just really a beautiful part of how we're wired to connect as humans that many of us forget when we come here.
So how do you detect when there's sort of breakdowns in the flow of information and the flow of energy within that quantum terrain that need to be addressed, such as like might have fed into your tumor?
Yeah, there's so many layers to that, right? It's just so many interesting rabbit holes we can go into. But there's a couple key things that kind of I think are valid to share. One is heart rate variability. So that is a measurement tool that we use in bioregulatory medicine that looks at essentially the pattern of the electromagnetic field of the heart. And so we can be in a high heart rate variability that actually is a sign of health, where we have very variable heartbeats. Heart rate variability is like the exact measurement is the space between the time interval between beats of the heart. And you want that to be more variable. When we are sick or when we're in rigid regulation, that is low. A lot of my patients have these, Aura rings or sleep trackers where everybody knows their heart rate variability more. I have some technologies in my office that I can look at that too. So if you have low heart rate variability, that can be a window into the electromagnetic information that is coming from your heart. So that can be in a state of more incoherence or lack of coherence within that electromagnetic information. So that's number one. I work a lot with the fascia in my work. So in my practice, I do a lot of work with like bioresonance and muscle testing. And in the early days, even before I was tuned into all the things we're sharing about, I was trained in scar therapy. And this is a technique called neural therapy. It's going back to the 1920s from Germany. These two brothers figured out how to do this. And when we think about a scar, that's an area of injury, a surgical area often, or just an area of trauma. And the, body is really brilliant. It can heal, but it puts kind of like a plug back into that original fascial fabric. So it's more dense, it's more regular. I call it like a traffic jam in the fascia. And what I've seen and observed in really hundreds, maybe thousands of patients at this point, that the the scar tissue has a huge impact on the communication network of this fascial fabric. And I do an injection technique. There are other ways to, do this. But I use a substance called procaine. It's 1% preservative free. It's actually a local anesthetic that brings back basically cellular voltage, also circulation, lymphatic drainage. It softens that kind of traffic jam. And what we find is that that traffic jam can kind of be a hotspot for toxicants that kind of get lodged in that space. So heavy metals, mycotoxins, probably nanoplastics, other kind of things that get lodged in that space, as well as, other pathogens. I treat Lyme and co-infections and parasitic infections and viral infections and long haulers and all sorts of things. And most importantly, there's a memory or a trauma. This has been dubbed fascial memory. And before I even learned about how to put words to this, I observed it. So when I would go in and inject, there would also often be a somatic memory that would be basically this vibrational pattern that would get unwound in the body. And so that would look like people crying or shaking, or we call these regulations where the body just needs to do what it needs to do to kind of release that stuck stagnant information in their fascia. And there would be all sorts of really crazy things. People would feel lighter, they would feel clearer. I would have different kind of random symptoms, like basically get released. So I've done like a mole removal scar, in somebody's back, and their heart palpitations, went away. And I never really understood that until I really dove into this, that, this is a interconnected highway, and, it's a whole system. So when there is stagnation or, adhesions or scar tissue in one area, that can affect the whole network. And so that is a really big, observation I've made. And then, there's, often when people are in a chronic illness, they have a system that has not only kind of scar tissue, but stagnation in their lymphatic system. And I believe the fascia really encases the lymph in the blood and also the extracellular matrix. So we call that the lymph in the blood liquid fascia. So we could have, stagnant lymph. We could have sticky blood. A lot of people have vascular inflammation post, COVID, or sticky blood from, EMF and all the modern insults. We have a lot of stress on our systems in, modern life. And part of my, inquiry to look at the physics of life, because I don't think we can get every toxicant out of the body anymore. I don't think we can lower the threshold and get people to heal, but we have to look at these ways of changing vibrational patterns, changing the electromagnetic information in the body, changing, the light in the body. And that, I think, will have more of an impact down the road than getting rid of every stress in the body. So, that's just, why I'm also so curious about all of this. And that's, again, we can look at all the list of things we have to treat in somebody, but we can also look at the capacity to heal when we live in this interconnected universe. So why I bring up like the lymph in the blood, because as you mentioned, as you distill the information really accurately, we want to be better generators and emanators and receivers of information. And when our system is really stagnant and kind of constricted, we are not able to really generate or receive, information. as well. One of the hardest things that I hear, from my patients is that who are really sick is they're often very spiritual people that can't connect anymore. They feel like they've been shut, like their crown chakra has been basically like dimmed down or kind of suppressed. They can't connect. And that's why I also believe, when somebody is on their path to healing and their road to recovery, so they can connect again and generate this information, that's why we need to get group healing and, or adding coherent information to that patient so their body starts to remember and to respond and be in resonance again with that. So, I could go down so many more rabbit holes, but
Well,
that,
I think you're bringing everything else together. I like to just sort of synthesize it. So it's
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah,
part of what's happening is you have scar tissue or lymphatic issues, and that's creating like a breakdown in the communication system from the kind of quantum
yeah,
field cells. So
yes,
so
yeah,
that's almost like the interconnective element that often gets addressed. So we tend to Western medicine is looking more at the symptoms and sort of treating those. And this is more sort of saying, okay, well, what's the connection pathways that need to be
yeah,
established with the deeper intelligence of the universe? And when you free those, it sounds like then you can kind of more naturally have a healing
yeah.
response.
Yeah, it's all about kind of identifying and, unblocking the stagnation or liberating this energy that's stuck in the body. So then, the body can, have a better
Mhm.
electromagnetic,
Right.
communication and,
So the electromagnetic system is part of the
yeah,
terrain, the sort
yeah,
of the fluid, the
yeah,
extracellular fluid is part of the
yeah,
terrain. And so when
yeah,
you shift that terrain using some of the quantum principles, then that flows into health. That makes a lot of sense. You're
yeah,
drawing a lot of threads together, which is
yeah,
really interesting. And
yeah,
I feel like trying to distill it down is
yeah,
helpful for me and probably others as well. And
yeah,
so maybe share a little bit more about some of the practices that you engage. So there's some that is sort of on the physical level, some more kind of meditation,
yeah.
visualization, working with energy, just how you sort of integrate those into a more comprehensive approach.
Yeah, when I kind of work with people, I share, I have this kind of, we're always trying to explain what we do, and it's never not linear. It's very, dynamic. But we talk about regulation, which I've explained this, divine intelligence, so that the body can self-regulate and heal. We talk about drainage, which is all about draining the extracellular matrix, the lymphatics, getting the blood to move, getting the scar tissue unblocked. That's, drainage and regulation. And then I talk a lot about resonance and coherence. So I use bioresonance tools and muscle testing to have a dialogue with the body, and see where we need to prioritize. And I teach that, I teach, like this, why I have a practice is, people can read so much information these days, but there is an art of dialoguing with the eye, the body, and observing the body from a different perspective and prioritizing what needs to be done and kind of, what things need to be treated. And then, so we talk about coherence, and coherence is this idea of adding coherent information to the body so we can add light and sound and frequency. And this is also group healing and intention. We have a weekly intention circle that's free for patients. And then I use the Weber medical system, which we have intravenous laser light that we can put into the blood so the body can remember this coherent light. And every light has a different function in the body. Our body is wired to receive light, from the sun as well. So that's red and blue and yellow and green and infrared and UV light. We also have a laser helmet that can get into the brain, that has infrared and red, or laser watch. So we, use light. I also really love sound. So I really love sharing different ways to interact with sound. We'll have a sound bath as a bonus in this course. But I have a technology that my dear friend Kelly Kennedy and this very brilliant man, Rasmus Gaut Berghausen, he studied with Emoto for 20 years. And he actually studied with him to disprove him. And then he became such a believer that he started, working with him. And he created this technology called the Sound of Soul. And it creates it observes your heart rate variability, which I talked about, but it converts it into a audible tone into different music that you get played back to you. So you're listening to the music of your heart. And that is very healing for people. There is also a light component too. So you're bathing in the light and sound of your own heart. That they've even done studies on, the impact and even active labor, how that decreases pain. But in my perspective, it's kind of this auto tune. We auto tune our own field. We remember who we are. Our heart plays back to us. That beauty of who we are, and that you can walk away with that information and that music. So we give that to people. We do a lot of lymphatic work. I have a lymphatic drainage practitioner, as well as we use an equipment that's called flow presso, which is compression infrared and this vibrational information that increases cell voltage. And then, we use a lot of just other, tools and therapies. There's so many, but those are the big ones, that I use in my practice. And that just illustrates how we can kind of dance with these ideas, and also give people this understanding of how they're wired to heal as well.
Well, it's clear that you're integrating so many of the leading edge modalities in a really integrative way. So let's. I also know you wanted to give a little bit of a meditation guided practice.
Yeah.
Actualize this, some of what you're teaching right here in their lives today. So why don't you take some time to do that now?
All right. So I'm just going to invite us all to just kind of put our feet on the ground. If you're driving, please come back to this point. And just know that everybody who's listening to this interview is connected. And so I want us just to start with bringing in something into your heart space, somebody, someone, some experience, something that just can really open up your heart space, some feeling of love, gratitude, appreciation. And let's just sit together in a moment and really take the time to feel that. So let's feel that together. And as we start to feel this feeling in your mind's eye, just start to see this beautiful wave of electric and magnetic information you are generating, and you are sharing with the greater universe in this moment. And this electromagnetic wave of information also might have a color. Often I see green or gold with the heart. So just take a moment to see what color comes up for you. And just start to see this really expansive energy that you are generating. And this energy starts to entrain your brain. And your brain starts to remember what this coherent electromagnetic information feels like. And it starts to generate it. And just in a moment, start to see your brain and your heart interconnected as one. And just feel that rhythm that you're generating, that interconnection, that synchronization. And just feel that. And then start to feel this energy, this information that you are generating. And start to see it. It might have a color. I often see white or gold, but whatever that color may be for you. And just start to see this information start to travel through this fabric, this highway that bathes every space in your body, the highway of your fascia, and just start to see it light up. It's this crystal that we all have within us. And start to see this light go down from the top of your head and bathe all of your head, your eyes and your sinuses and your teeth and travel down your neck and bathe all of the organs and the glands and the tissues in your neck, your nerves and your thyroid and your blood. And start to see it travel down your torso and interact with your heart again and extend out through your arms and through your pelvic floor and your pelvic bowl and down through your legs. And just start to really feel this really expansive energy that you are generating. You are this beautiful liquid crystal, that you are generating this beautiful energy that is emanating all around you. And this energy creates a beautiful pattern of information, this beautiful coherent pattern that tells your cells to be the highest expression of your cellular information, your DNA. And just sit with that experience. And from your cell and this beautiful coherent pattern, just trust that this pattern is also allowing your cell to glow in this beautiful coherent light, these biophotons you are generating from each cell. And your cell is actually singing. We know our cells generate beautiful music, especially when they're in a healthy state. And just know that this sound and this light and all of the information that this cell is generating in concert with the collective information and environment of your body is traveling through this beautiful crystal, this fascial fabric, and start to see this information from your cell and this crystal that you are generating, emanating all around you. This electromagnetic wave that is in the shape of a toroidal field that is around you. This field of light and sound that you are generating. And just take a moment to feel that. You are light and sound and electromagnetism and energy, all resonating at different frequencies. And know that you are not alone, that this information is being received by this greater field of energy that we are all interconnected with. We are connected and quantumly entangled together in this meditation through this quantum field. And just feel this really lovely, expansive, interconnected energy that we are all bathing in. And from your heart space, trust that you might have a thought or a question or a desire to receive a healing. And let's together allow ourselves to receive from this greater field. And you might receive right away, or you might have a thought or a dream or an inspiration today or in your dreams or later this week. It's all okay. There's all divine timing for this information. So let's just take a moment together to feel what it feels to receive this supportive, loving field of information where all things come from and all potentials arise. And let's take a moment to just give so much gratitude for this knowing, for this divine ability to connect. And let's take 3 healing breaths together. We're breathing in this information together. And then in your own time, let's just slowly open our eyes and see how we feel.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, thank you for that. That was very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
harmonizing and bringing that sense of deep interconnection. I would love for you to share about a little bit how to continue that and build that into a holistic health protocol. So it's like we have that one-off experience, but then how does that become part of a practice that's really bringing optimum health in our system?
Yeah, I feel really, passionate to teach, this, quantum terrain and all the facets and practices. And for my science brain, I want you to know like the how and the why, and then the how to, right? So I really love to unpack, everything we shared and then weave in practices of, I think knowing that our heart is the great conductor of our brain and our body and our field, we have to have a heart hygiene practice every day. I think also, I teach a lot about light, our light environment. How do we interact with the light of nature? The sun has been demonized, but it's very much there to heal us and connect and give us energy and information. There's also a lot that we can do with our light environment in our homes. There's ways to add really health promoting light in our homes. Um, there's also I have a deep love of sound now. That's probably where I'm going the deepest, just because of the work of somatics and how a sound really creates these vibrational patterns when there is a medium like the water in our bodies. And I believe that this information that gets structured in the form of these patterns is really kind of this high level kind of communication, kind of that's where the physics meets the chemistry and these patterns. And then I love the rabbit hole of water. I'm, very obviously as a naturopath focused on, filtered water and clean water and all of that good stuff. But water is a medium, and it's a medium of healing and communication. And I've studied with, Dr. Pollack and Beta Austin and beautiful people who have this very expanded view of the water we bathe in and the water that we ingest and how we can really heal from this water that we are, really made up of. And then there's really this integration, there's so many facets to this and finding your way to work with and add in these principles into your life and make them really easy, right? And to find that starting point. So we'll really break that down. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. Well, let's talk more explicitly about your upcoming program since we've referenced it a few times. And
Yeah.
it really is an opportunity to get this very comprehensive paradigm shift in healing and health and get it into a really powerful form for our lives. So you can, again, the program is called Quantum Terrain Healing, Optimize Your DNA for Radiant Health Using the Power of Epigenetics and Quantum Energy. You can see it at the URL healingwithquantumterrain.com, healingwithquantumterrain.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites. It's going to go deep, but you can start from wherever you are to really take this knowledge in and the practices and begin to apply them with the full spectrum of modalities from light and sound and meditation to energy to structured water. There's a lot in here.
Mhm.
Christine, I'd love for you to share your broader intentions first for the program, and then I'll read out the module title so you give us a preview of what's coming in each.
Yeah, wherever you are on your journey, I'm obviously have this lens through healing, but there's so many aspects to bringing this knowledge into your awareness and working with it. I'm very inspired to teach people how we're truly wired to heal. and that we live in this interconnected universe and we're not alone. And really, that is a big driver for creating this course.
Great. So module 1 is called Discover How You Can Heal Using Light and Sound Frequencies.
Yeah, so we're gonna, break all this down. We're gonna talk a lot about this fabric of the quantum terrain, and I'll go deeper in the conversation that we just had, so you can really take that in and understand it. And we'll also talk about the information that travels in this space in the form of light, sound, magnetism, and the frequencies of those forms of quantum energy.
Module 2, expand your body's quantum communication abilities by healing your fascia.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about how to keep this space really hydrated, and how movement is huge, and how to break down adhesions and scar tissues, and really to have a fascia practice in your life, so that you can be a better generator and receiver of information.
Module 3, enhance your cellular health using structured water.
Yeah, so I, love water, and I love diving deep and sharing this plasma form of water that is highly generative of energy. It also creates more flow in our body, how we can create it within our body, how we can ingest it, and also taking it another step about stable, coherent water, and how we can, interact with that, and how that is also creating a lot of energy in our system.
Very cool. Module 4, charge your body up for health with the electromagnetic field.
Yeah, so we'll just break down. These words get used a lot, magnetism, and we'll break down kind of what that means. Electricity, magnetism. How that communicates within the body. How that is a really important communication in this quantum terrain, and how to create really coherent electromagnetic information in our body. Mm.
Module 5, illuminate your health and consciousness with biophotons.
So, I love light and sound. You probably equally, probably it's all a tie, honestly, with water too. But light is, very, I've learned so much, especially from Fritz Albert Popp and his work with biophotons, and how our lights, the light that is generated from our cells. We want this coherent light. We don't want too much light or not enough light. It's like this Goldilocks amount of light, and how we can heal with light. Our body is wired to communicate and receive different wavelengths of light for healing. So we'll go deep into that, and how light has been used to describe, to explore consciousness, and how there's a connection between light and consciousness.
Module 6, harmonize your cellular rhythms with cymatics and sonocytology.
Yeah, so this is going to be more about vibration in the form of sound. So we're going to talk about sonocytology. That's this idea that our cells create music. So healthy cells create this coherent music, and dead or kind of dying, kind of cancer cells have this kind of screeching music. So we're going to unpack what that all is and the history of that, as well as this idea of somatic. So these patterns that these sounds generate, and how we can think about this. These patterns are really an intelligence for our kind of health and our biochemistry. So it's going to be fun.
I mean, I'm not even familiar with the music and the cells and it's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cool.
yeah, really fun. Yeah.
Modules, and then finally, module 7, amplify your healing power with quantum technologies.
Yeah, so you heard me share a little bit about the different technologies. For those who want to interact on that level, we'll just kind of share that kind of all the dynamic tools that are out there. We're ultimately the strongest frequency generators, but some people need to incorporate these things while they're on a healing journey. So we'll integrate and weave these tools. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, what a beautiful program, and so powerful, going into a lot of terrain
Yeah.
that's really new and groundbreaking and synthesizing in one place. So again, all the details are at healingwithquantumterrain.com. And also want to draw attention, there's a number of other dimensions to this program. So you not only are going to get these 7 90-minute live sessions, so you're going to have time to ask your questions live, which is a really valuable opportunity. You'll get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to study and highlight. There's weekly exercises and practices you can do at home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that help to complement the core teachings. There's a PDF guide from Dr. Christine called Heart, Brain, Fascia Coherence, the Bridge to Wholeness. You want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, in our meditation, I kind of walked down through, the heart, the brain, and then how that information gets delivered to our cells through the fascial fabric. And that has the power to kind of really shift our epigenetic expression. So that goes a little bit more deeper into that conversation.
Very cool. There's
Yeah.
also another PDF guide from Dr. Christine called 4 Ways to Detox Your Glymphatic System as part of the core work she's been talking about today. And then there's also a final bonus that is our special bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. There's another PDF guide called The Role of Interference Fields in Healing Chronic Pain and Illness. So you get that if you sign up right away on today. And I want to share a little bit about the role of interference fields in healing chronic pain and illness.
Yeah, I talked about scars, but there's many other interferences in the body that can be these areas that are hidden from our immune system and that often tax and overwhelm our lymphatic system. They generate biotoxins that affect our nervous system. So these can be these silent areas that can be really weighing on your energy and your terrain and your ability to connect. So we're going to unpack those as well.
Yeah, removing some of the interference patterns and really helping to all the flow of information and energy and
Yeah,
connection with the universe.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Well, it's clearly going to be so much value, really packed with like great insights and practices and the frontiers of natural medicine. And we've made it very accessible as well. It's just 3 payments of $128. You save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start on June 24th and run Mondays at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. But even if you can't make those times live, you can still get the full value with the recordings, transcripts, and the community as well. And I also encourage you to go check out the page at healingwithquantumterrain.com. And you'll see there's a lot of great testimonials from people who've worked with Dr. Christine. Just really tremendous honor. Mentorship is so thoughtfully arranged to support your journey into the quantum. Gifted and generous teacher. Really always admired her work. So it's really wonderful. You're in great hands, and she's really dedicated to synthesizing all of this frontier work in a way that really helps you realize your own optimal health and your connection to the larger field of consciousness and awareness that supports and sustains all of us.
Mm.
So you're in good hands, and you will get lots of great tools to support your health and evolution. And if you move forward today, you're going to get that special bonus as well, which is the role of interference fields in healing chronic pain and illness.
Mm.
So Christine, we're at the end of our hour, just a few minutes left. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering going deeper into this work with quantum terrain healing with you?
Yeah, no, thank you, Stephen. I'm really honored to be at this place where I can teach this form of really medicine. And there's only so many people I can help in my clinic, and so I just love this ability to share this information and touch more lives, so that people can really experience what we're sharing today. And I just have this really strong belief that the more people that we can gather together and observe this understanding of the quantum terrain, that we really have the power together to really be part of the shift of the paradigm of medicine that is so desperately needed for so many people. And I would love to do that with the community that signs up for this course.
Beautiful. Well, the sincerity of your exploration and commitment to help healing is really so inspiring. So thank you, Christine, for this time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you all for joining. And if you'd like to go further, again, you get all the details on Christine's new program at healingwithquantumterrain.com, and you'll get the special bonus on working with interference fields in healing chronic pain and illness when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you so much. Many blessings.
Thank you.